In today's video, I'm going to show you how I created this look and what brushes that I used. So I've got some of the BK Beauty brushes. These are my absolute favorite brushes and my go-to brushes. I've tried to keep this look down to 7 brushes today. There are so many more that I'd love to go through with you, but this will just give you an idea if you don't have any brushes or you're just starting out, what are the absolute sort of basic brushes that you need to use. So let's jump into the video. So today, what I would really like to talk about is brushes. So I'm just going to prep my skin with some moisturizer. This is the Torridon. It's one of the Beauty Amora products. So I don't really want to get too much into products. I would really like to talk about brushes. So what we're going to do is some of my favorite brushes are the BK Beauty range. I haven't even opened this because I know I'm going to save it for when I need it. So this is the Core Complexion Trio. It's a great brush set to start off for your base. So I'm going to go through quite a few of the brushes. I love their brush pouch as well. This has got the zip, you place your brushes there, but it sits up. So great for traveling. So she's really thought of everything. I did have the good fortune of actually meeting Lisa, and she is just quite an incredible person on her own, and I just love all her brushes. My plan is to show you quite a few different brushes, but I would like to see if we can simplify it down to say 6 brushes, I'm thinking, for a makeup look. I really feel like we don't need to have too many. So I'll show you these 2 because I feel you can just get away with one of these. So this is your standard, this is the 101. So this is one of the foundation brushes, and I loved the angle. Like, it's just beautiful on the skin. So it's a good one to do your makeup nice and quick. However, my preference for the foundation brush is the 109. So it's like the baby version. So we're going to use this to build up the foundation. Before applying, I always like to place it on the back of my hand, and I also like to make sure that the brush is nice and covered. I feel like if it's really even on the brush, it's going to go even on your face. So the reason I love the smaller brush is because we can get quite detailed. Yeah, so we don't need to have too much product on that forehead, but I'd like to have a little bit more down the nose. So I'm just building it up with this brush. As you can see, it's just really nice, beautiful, nice and soft on the skin as well. I always like to build up the middle of the face first and then blend it out. And as you can see, I've got quite rosy cheeks as well. So this is brush number 1. And this would be, I would say, my pick for the foundation brush, especially if you want something a little bit more detailed. But what I will show you is if you do have the larger brush, same thing applies, really load that brush up. You know, you can get a lot more done a lot quicker. So it just depends, you know, how quick. And look, this is a lot more seamless. So this is great for your detailed, but you don't have to have both. Okay, so that's brush number 1. The second brush that I would recommend investing in is one for your cream contour or your contour. So it depends. I actually do both cream and then powder contour, and I find the cream contour, I want something a little bit more smaller and detailed. You can see I've used this for blush. This one is the 112, or you've got the 110. So these 2, I would pick either one or the other. The other option for your cream is you can just go back to the baby one of these. So this could be your brush that would do your contour as well. So let's try and make it really simple. We've got brush number 1, which is the large foundation brush, that's 1. I'm going to use this one as number 2 for the contour. As always, placing the contour on my hand and loading up the brush, okay? And I'm just going to place this exactly where I want this contour. It's really quite high on the face. This just helps to create that lift. So see how this brush just seamlessly works the product into the skin. It's going to contour up the top forehead as well, and because of this shape you can really just work it in, and it just looks so nice and natural. Being a nice fine brush, you can do these more detailed areas like down the nose and also along that jawline without making it too obvious. So that is brush number 2. And it's the, just remember, it's a 109. I'll make sure I write all these in the description. The next brush would be for your blush. And again, if you've seen some of my videos, I really like to do all the creamy products first, and then I go in with the powder products. You can use these brushes for both. So here's the 112 that I looked at earlier, and you can see that I have used it for blush before, but I love the fact that it's got that cute little angle. It's really good for placing high on the cheeks. I also like the cream blush. This is actually a cute one. I haven't shown this before. It's one of the Youngblood Vivid Luxe blushes, but it's in a mini, so it's a lot smaller. Once again, I'm going to add that to the back of my hand, just so I can have a bit more control over the product. And I'm going to dip the brush in and just really make it even on the brush and nice and high on the cheeks. So this is brush number 3, and is for your blush. So I would also use this same brush for the powder blush as well, okay? So you can wipe that off. Great little tool to use to wipe them off is this. It's a little bit dirty. These you can pick up from the pharmacy, any beauty store, and it just helps to sort of get off any of the excess product, and then you can go in with your powders if you wish, just so you don't have to have a million brushes. So here we go, brush number 3. So the eye makeup brushes is where things start getting a little bit more complicated. So once again, we're going to try and just minimize this for as much as possible. So I would suggest brush number 4 for your eyes to be quite a fluffy brush. So you've got a few options here. These would be the 3 different options I would suggest from the BK Beauty range. So you've got the 211, the 202, and the 206, okay? So they're all slightly different in sort of, this one's a little bit fatter, a bit more splayed, this is a bit more fluffier, and this is a little bit more narrow, okay? So a bit more detailed. We're going to take this one, so I would suggest the 202, okay? And what we're going to do is we're just doing a very basic makeup today. I'm just taking this light taupe shade from a Youngblood palette. And this is what we're going to do, is place this all over the mobile lid. So we're doing a very easy eye makeup look, but I really want to show you the brushes, okay? So this brush works beautifully for doing this, yeah? And I'm just really sweeping it through because it's nice and blendable. It's not too big for the eye. It's just perfect for doing this. It does make it nice and simple. So this is your, what would it be, the 4th brush? I just forgot how many. I will recount the brushes, and I'll make sure I add these all into the description so you know exactly what brushes we've used, because brushes can be quite confusing. So there we are. That is eye makeup brush number 1. So that brush there was brush number 4. So now we're up to the 5th brush. So we want something a little bit more detailed. I've got 2 detailed brushes here by BK Beauty. We have the 204 and the 210. So one is quite flat and a little bit more round. Both would be great. So choose which ones you like. I quite like this little flat one because you can kind of, it's detailed, but you've also got a little bit of length there. Same color as we used before, and we're just placing that along the bottom lash line. See how it's perfect to have a brush that's a little bit more detailed. But you can also use this brush, we just wipe that off, to add a little bit of the darker shade from the palette, placing it really close to your lash line. Yeah, because it is smaller, it's going to help with that little bit of detail. Same underneath the eye, a little bit more detail. And also picking it up on the flat side, you can place a little bit just on that corner. Don't stress where it is, just pop it there. And go back to your first brush that you used earlier and just work that in. Yeah, I'm just sort of little circular movements, just using this because this is the blending brush. So what this is going to do is just blend a little bit of product that you've placed. So there's 2 brushes. So far, all you've needed for this eye makeup look is 2 brushes. These are the 2 here, okay? And that is it. Now, the other tool we're going to use to add a little bit of something to this eye makeup look is our finger. I would recommend this above any brush, especially if you're doing your own, because by using, say, a little bit of shimmer, and like shimmer, as you can see, look at it there, it has fallout. So if we use our finger, it's going to stick to our finger, and then it's going to stick straight on where we want that to go. Ooh, done. Same on the other side. Just place it on. Okay, nice and simple. And then once again, back to your original brush in the beginning, blending brush, just blend out any edges. Make sure that that shimmer hasn't gone too high. Just going to add some mascara before we go on to the next brush. So if you have any questions at all about brushes and which ones to use, please leave your questions in the comments. I will link these brushes. They're all in my shop. I actually use these brushes personally and also professionally as well. So I do genuinely love them. And there's a huge range there. So that's why I'm giving you the numbers so you don't get too confused. The other brush you will need is one for your brows. Now I would choose a brow product that has a brush on one end and the pencil on the other. So if you're doing nothing at all with your brows, you are combing them up and out. But if you have the option of the color on the other end, you can really add just a little bit of color, define those brows slightly, and then you can brush it out with your spoolie wand. As you can see, I'm just doing the outer corner of the tails of these brows today. I don't want a huge or a full-on brow. I just want it nice and natural. And I like it sort of going a little less towards the inner corner, especially for this look. So that's your other brush that I would just highly recommend finding a brow product that has the double end. Makes it so much easier. Okay, brush number 6 is something to use for your powder bronzer, like something to set that creamy bronzer. Okay, so if you wish, you can go back and use the same brush that you used before. However, I prefer this one here. This is the dense bronzer. This is the 111. So it is a lot bigger, but what I love about it is you can swirl it into your product. I'm just picking one up here, no particular reason. Tap it off, and then I'm just going to, see how it's got a nice sort of angle, and I'm just going over where we placed that contour earlier. Harder down the nose because it is a larger brush, but I just love the fact that I can just sort of pat that in and it just really finishes the look. You can also use this possibly for your setting powder as well. I would do what I'm doing here and really get that product off before you start using it with your setting powder, and then set with this as well. And I'm going to not set under the eyes yet, because we do have another brush. Surprise, surprise. I didn't keep it to 6 brushes. That's number 6. Okay, brush number 7. I lied. I thought it was going to be 6 brushes, but I just couldn't seem to keep it to 6. I swear though, you could actually keep it to 6 if you wish. I'm just realizing that this brow is a lot lower than the other one, so bear with me. I am lower on one side than the other, so we'll knock this one down and lift this one up. Okay, back to brushes. So this one has to be my all-time favorite. This is also a BK Beauty brush, but it's from the Angie Hot and Flashy range. So she has a whole range within BK Beauty, so you could probably buy her entire range if you see like a set. This one is the A506, and I love the fact it's this angle, and there's quite a few brushes, as you can see, that have these angles, but it just makes it a little bit more detailed and easier to use. And this is so super soft. So I use this one for underneath the eye area. Okay, so under my eyes, I'm not going to go for concealer today. I'm just going with a little bit of the foundation that I used earlier, and I'm coating my brush with it. Once again, nice and even on that brush. And I'm going to go a little stamp here, same on this side. Yeah, don't want too much. But what I'm doing is just using it like a little blender and pressing it in. And then I've got this nice little point here, which I can pull it out, helps to lift that area, and then just blend it in to the rest of the face. So it's just such a gorgeous brush. It feels amazing on the skin and it just literally does the job. So I would highly recommend this brush. Same if you want to add a little bit more down the nose, anywhere where it's a little bit more detailed. And I would also use this for the powder, for the setting. So I'd clean it off a little bit. Doesn't matter too much if it's too wet. I find it's fine. I'll go straight into the translucent and just tapping that off. I don't like too much. And just setting that product underneath the eye as well. And down the nose. So you can see just how quickly that has got rid of any dewiness. The only other thing that I would do is use the same brush that we used before for the blush, and I would add some powder blush to my cheeks as well. I'm just trying to find one that I really want to use, and it's not here. Not here. We're using this one. This is the Fit Me by Maybelline. So pigment's not overly strong, so I really like to sweep that in and just place that on the tops of the cheeks. And then we haven't done the lips yet. I don't use the brushes for my lips very often. I will use that detailed brush that we used earlier on underneath of the eyes, and I'll pick up some of that contour shade and use it a little bit like a liner. And that's probably the only time I will use a brush, because one, I'm a little bit lazy, two, I just like to use the applicator or my finger. And just using the same blush that we used earlier. So just a quick recap. Today we have used 7 brushes, so that's not too bad. So that's kept it really quite concise, especially for me. I'm a makeup artist and I use quite a few per client, although I'm trying to keep that more concise as well. We tend to just go crazy on the different types of brushes that we need, but once you find the ones that really suit you and you really feel like they suit your face, then you're away. So I will make sure I list these in the description. Let me know what you think. Love to hear your thoughts, and let me know if there's any brush that you'd like me to talk in a bit more detail as well.